what I'm about to present to you it's so complicated, yet so simple. It's mind-boggling. The most difficult part that I've always had, is getting what's in my mind out to you. So I'm going to need your help. And what I need you to do is I need you to go deep into your consciousness, and I need you to follow along with the words that I say. What I need you to do is begin by taking a deep breath, and I want you to go deep into your consciousness. Don't worry, there is nothing spooky here. But what I want you to do is use your imagination. I want you to go so deep into your consciousness that we forget about the external world. You forget that you're in a human vessel. Your human body will wipe that idea away. The environment that you're in, we are going to make that disappear. Right now, we are only in consciousness. With that said, now, with everything eliminated, deep into your consciousness, I want you to understand and imagine you are the only consciousness in existence. What's special is that you know everything. I want you to imagine that you know the answers to every single question that can ever be asked. You know everything. I want you to imagine that you know the history to every single human being, every single solid object that has ever existed in time, in the past, and way beyond into the future. You know the history of every single point in existence throughout any possible realms of reality that could ever possibly be created. That is what's in your consciousness. I want you to imagine this right now. This idea is so hard to comprehend that what's even more harder to comprehend is that this consciousness is timeless. It's so large, yet it fits into nothing. It does not have any surroundings, and it is filled with so much information that it can yet go on forever. This idea is very hard to comprehend, but I want you to keep imagining now. Because the only thing that is missing within this consciousness of all information is the experience of all the things that I just mentioned. To know the history of every single thing, every man-made object, every speck of dust that crossed every single galaxy in existence. To know the history from birth until death of every single thing, and every single possibility in any imaginable realm or dimension, is hard to comprehend. To be able to experience that, though, is the point of existence. If you were a single source of consciousness and you knew every single thing, you're not alone. The consciousness at this level has no body. It has no friends. It doesn't long for another conversation with another consciousness. It is everything. It is all things. But what it does is it creates a reality to which it can experience someone like yourself in an environment with other people that you know. Things and objects, whether it be natural or man-made. All these things come from the source of information. The idea is to experience every single thing that's ever possibly can be experienced. So on one hand, the realm of information is experiencing life through your experience. And on the other hand, it's doing the exact same thing with any object that you come in contact with, or any person, or any other living creature, any tree, any wisp of rain. It is all there to be experienced. Even from the point of view of a flower looking up as you walk by or trample on it. All that is an experience. And that is hard to comprehend. What's even greater, that's hard to comprehend, is that all this is being done all at once. Every single possible experience is all happening all at the same time. And it's like that simply because in the realm of the conscious of all things, of all information, there is no time. There is no time and there is no place. There is no particular pinpoint. You cannot pinpoint where it exists. It's within and it's without, all at once. All existence, all creation, and all experience is all happening within a flash, what may seem like an instant. There is no time. But in order for you to experience your realm of reality, there is time. That is because in order to create an experience, you have to create the environment. You actually have to create the reality to which an experience is going to happen. And it happens like this. I want you to go now deep into your consciousness and continue to imagine within your consciousness a void of darkness. Here there is nothing. Not a thought, not a whisper, not a sound, nothing. In order to create the reality, you have to have rules for it to be guided by. These rules are important, and these rules apply to all things. The rule begins like this. We need to create a blueprint for which all this is going to happen. And the first thing that we need to have within this blueprint is a sense of environment. But within this void, this darkness, we have nothing. Looking around is pointless. There is no sense of direction, to which this is the first thing that must be created, a sense of direction. We must have a sense of up, down, left, right, front, and back. So this is what we are going to create. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to imagine a point. So now I want you to imagine a dot. A glowing dot, a colored dot, any dot you like. This dot is within this void. Contained in this dot is all information, because we must understand that this dot is the imagination of the consciousness. This is an illusion from the consciousness in order to create the dot. So the dot is only emitting the information that it needs to emit to be part of the environment. And in this case, right now, a dot. And that's all it's emitting, is just that information. And that is all. So now the next thing we need to do is we need to create a virtual point somewhere else. This point doesn't exist, but it's within the environment to which the point that you created must travel through. This is a path to go from here to there. That is all. The information that is being emitted from this point is to go from here to there. And then once we release it within this environment, we now have another important rule. Measurement of motion, to which this is time. Time is only a measurement of motion for that dot. And that's important to remember as well. For in creation, it is filled with many dots. Think of these dots like pixels on a computer, or points within a drawing on a piece of paper. As you zoom in and you get an idea that within the paper there is nothing but little tiny little dots, creating this wonderful image in the book. So now that we get the idea of reality, there is another rule that is absolutely important. It is contrast. Contrast allows us to experience the environment. These are the on and off signals of light and dark. Imagine if every single thing in existence was one color, let's say black. You wouldn't be able to see nothing. You wouldn't be able to see the interaction of any of the dots that I've created. You wouldn't be able to see them in motion. You need contrast. You need white. Color is just an expanded way for us to see contrast in a much more beautiful way. Color and light are simply waves of information. All things in existence are waves. The dots in motion that carry the information to move, to be in motion, are following along a pattern to which create the environment that you're in. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the human body, the human experience, experiencing your reality that you're in. It's quite simple, really. You have 5 senses. With your 5 senses, seeing, feeling, hearing, smelling, tasting, you experience your environment. Take one of those away, you can still experience your environment. Take all of those away, you have no experience. And life is an experience. So therefore, all these senses are picking up waves of information. The things that you see are waves of color. The things that you hear are waves of sound. Everything that's in your environment are waves. Your cells, your atoms, what the atoms are made of, these are all in tune with waves of information. The brain is interpreting all this. And while the brain is interpreting all this, we understand our brain to be made up of all of this as well. Isn't that intriguing? The very thing that's interpreting all this is made up of all this as well. It's your consciousness that's really understanding and interpreting what the environment is. You see, the source of all information doesn't need to have a brain. It doesn't need to breathe. It doesn't need to hear. The consciousness of all things doesn't behave like human beings. It doesn't behave like our own mind. It doesn't need to survive. It doesn't need to do anything in order to survive. It doesn't have a conquest to eat or drink. Its own survival is its own experience in acknowledging itself. Without the experience of all these things, even the consciousness of all things cease to exist. So the fact that there is an illusion of all this, of all experience, created by the source itself not only exists, but it also doesn't exist. And that is also hard to comprehend. That it doesn't exist within its own existence, within a time that doesn't exist, within an infinite space that is absolutely nowhere. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed what I have presented to you. I will continue my presentation next as I explain creation. So now that you understand the source of all information and how it relates to reality and its purpose, we are going to now get into creation. And for this, we are going to go into the darkness and the void of nothing. In this place, there is no time, there is no distance, there is no sense of volume, there is no sense of motion as you know it. If every bit of information were to be lit, it would look like this. Endless, bright light. Every single source is lit up. And if you could see with eyes, you'd be blinded by the light. So now consciousness must experience itself within this by creating contrast. Think of information that is not needed to be seen switched off. You are left with only the information needed to have your experience. Just like in computer language, where there is a 1 and zeros indicating an on and off, we can compare it to how reality can create virtually an environment by only displaying the signals or code needed for any particular information on and off. An accumulated number of information will present to you the environment and the experience of motion and time. Every single possible experience is being played out all at the same time, because there is no time here. From the beginning to the end, your entire experience of life has already been coded and played out. The blueprints have already been presented. You are now traveling through that information in order to experience the experience that was meant for you. Now from here, I'm just going to present to you this ancient symbol. This is called the Seed of Life, and it was created by masters of geometry a long time ago. Within this Seed of Life has the secret to all beginnings. Look at the pattern closely and compare it to the many things that you can look at and observe in your world. We are going to create a circle. Now, this circle, it's a force of energy. It's a force of information, and it's three-dimensional. For the moment, this is all still virtual. It does not exist. But within this circle, we are going to create another circle from its center, the exact same diameter as the first one. When you combine the two, the shape that you get in the middle is called a Vesica Piscis. This is the beginning of creation. The transfer of energy between those two will create all things in existence. And as you can see, it begins to form a shape that we might be familiar with. Let's continue adding more circles around. Considering that this is still a three-dimensional space that we're filling in, we can then see more in this image and relate to it what we have in our universe. Does this not look like the birth of a human within the womb of its parent? This is the creation of life. This is the seed of life. And as you can see, it's already starting to form the very fundamentals of our own human existence. We are going to now expand this image. And this image is called the flower of life. This holds the secret to the entire reality of your existence. As this symbol moves in motion and plays a dance, it creates all things. You will see this throughout history in many books and many symbols being the secret to reality, being the secret given by God, given by the essence of the universe. Mathematics is the universal language of everything. This symbol holds within it every single mathematical equation in existence. It is the foundation unto which any mathematical equation can exist. This, as a virtual, imaginary space, comes before math. The moment it becomes reality, mathematics kicks in. The idea of motion, calculation, adding, movement, all this is the reality that comes into existence from this form. So as we look at it still from an imaginary point of view, it's part of the blueprint to all existence. Each point can be an area to which displays information to which we can all recognize. For example, we can see shapes like cubes, stars, crystals. They're only sending out information in which needs to be sent out. Just like music, playing a song. As they move in motion, they are both within each other's space and expanding and contracting, whichever it is that their purpose is, causes waveforms that we can recognize. The forces that are moving follow guidelines. We have a source of information that is rising up, coming down within itself, underneath, and then rising up again. And it's a continuous flow this way. And I know you've seen this in your experience already. The entire universe is created of certain elements. We have discovered them and numbered them in the periodic table. Within all these elements, the entire universe is created. The dance and play of those elements is what creates absolutely everything that we know. So you see, the source of information doesn't have to create every single thing from scratch. It only needs to create certain elements that are at play with one another, thus creating the reality that which you exist, that create photons, atoms, electrons, that create the trees, that create the air, that create the space, that creates the cells, that create absolutely everything. And everything is in motion in a dance, which is beautiful. It's not random stuff. To say that creation is just random means that everything within, that's moving within the creation, would also have to be random, and it's not. If the universe was random, everything would be in chaos. You wouldn't be able to have structure. The existence of human life here on this planet never has been a coincidence. The idea that on Earth was just lucky to have all the right elements to create life is not true. Because the dance and information of all those elements move in such a way where, although the elements are there, they are not spread out and chaotic. They form every single human life. They form the brain and the mind to which all these things are active. Every cell has a consciousness, and everything works in coordination with each other in a very logical, well thought out plan from the Creator to experience all of this. But it's not random. Random cannot create not only the human body, but it cannot create the thinking mind, and the mind that works within the vessel of the body to move around in its environment, to interact with other things that are created the same way. See, none of it's random, and none of it can be considered lucky. And that is hard for some people to understand, that everything in existence is there for a purpose, and it has a purpose, and it's doing something that is somewhat controlled by the source of information experiencing life through your experience. And your consciousness that you have is only being limited to what it can observe. Without the 5 senses or 6 senses, you can't observe anything in your reality. If you had more senses, which there's nothing to say that more senses can't be created. If the source wanted it, you would have more senses. And within all the senses you would have, you'd be able to experience more of the reality that you exist in. So you see, with just your five senses, you're only able to experience the periodic table, experience shapes and forms and color, sounds, all these waves of information. And what feels like a solid is not really a solid. And what feels like a wave is not really a wave. And in the future, you will find, science will find, that even the waves themselves are non-existent. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed what I have presented to you. I will continue my presentation next as I explain experience. So the secret to all this is that nothing becomes a reality until you have observed it. There is an old saying that you might recognize. If a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? Or if there's no one there to see it fall, did it ever really fall? It is not until you go and observe the tree that is down, then it becomes a reality. So you see, with all the possibilities that can be experienced, when you come in contact with a certain source of information, there are multiple choices on which events can happen. And the one that's happening to you is the one that you come in contact with at that particular moment, to be observed by you. So this is a play that will bring a lot of confusion into your reality when you start to think of the things that you are looking at. Although they have a sense of history, they don't actually exist until you have observed them. For example, the tree that has fallen, that didn't come into existence until someone or you have observed it. I understand how hard it is to understand that what I am talking about is coded information. That your reality is almost like a hologram, per se, because none of this really exists. And the reason why it doesn't exist is just simply because it's information coming from the source to project an idea that your reality exists. So when you see other people are part of the reality that's being created only for you. Does that mean that they don't really exist? Yes and no. And that's what's difficult to understand. Yes, they exist. They are at play within the reality that you are observing. They too have an observation to which you are now a part of their reality. However, the two consciousnesses that are separate, theirs and yours, are both connected to the ultimate source of information. Since this reality is strictly for you to observe, that means that the only real consciousness at play is the one that's in your mind. But what I am saying is that everything that you're having a relationship with is part of everything. The people that you have a relationship with are connected to the source. You are actually having an emotional connection with the source through other people. It's pretty complicated, and I'm really not trying to confuse you. However, you must understand that all those people that are in existence and their time before you existed are just coming into reality as you observe them. So think of anybody that you know. They're having an experience themselves, but you have a path that you're on. And every moment of this path, there are multiple possibilities of experiences. And before you can go into one direction or go into another direction, but you don't really get to choose so much. But I'll explain this secret in a moment. There is a possibility of directing your own path. But the path that you're on, every moment branches off into different possibilities, to which you are only the one observing the one that you're on. Okay? So then other possible yous of yourself have already branched off to experience those other possible experiences. That is to say that the journey that you're on is a pattern of information that you will end up to a destined experience. And that includes the entire world that's going on. Whether the world is at peace or at war, that is what you are meant to experience. And that is the key to all existence, is experiencing all those things. If you have a destined outcome, let's just say in 10 years, a certain disaster will happen to you. You say, can you change that course? The answer is you can never change that course if it was destined. What would end up happening is that another version of yourself will follow a different path to which a different outcome arises. You may say to yourself, I wish to be on that path, but whichever path is going to end up happening is the one that you were destined to. So whatever you choose to do from this point on isn't going to change the future. It's just going to change your perception of the future. So, for example, if someone were to tell you what your future is, and that someone will tell you that in 5 years, something is going to happen, something disastrous is going to happen, and you wish to change that reality. Let's just say the actions that you take don't bring you on that path. It brings you on a different path, a nicer path. The truth is you are always going to go to this path. The observation of someone telling you about the disaster was all meant to be. It was all at play. You never changed your reality at all. It's just your perception of the reality changed. Okay? Now, to bring it all together, there is a very interesting point that you need to understand about this, is that history, before you existed, also comes into reality the moment you become an observer. Your mother and your father and all this never exists until you come into reality. It feels as though they've been there because they have a history that's encoded into your life, into your reality. It's all encoded. It was already set there. There are an endless potential of histories that you could be sprouting from as well, you see. So, in a sense, life only begins at the moment you become an observer. So the tree that fell, that had a history, that only came into your reality the moment you observed it, has a history to it. So, if the entire universe is 13 plus billion years old, that has only come into reality the moment you became an observer. So this is where science and religion can start to mold themselves into one. The creation of life, according to many of the more popular religions, explain the dark void, explain the sense of direction, explain light, explain motion, explain reality. So can the world be old and yet reality only came into existence the moment you were born? That's exactly what I'm saying. And let that sink in, because everything that you come into contact with, A, has a history of its own, has an observation of its own, and it is in your reality for a reason. This is important to understand because now, from now on, you can take everything in your existence without judgment. You don't have to judge the people who are in your life anymore. They are there for a reason, for their goodness and for their flaws, for your goodness, for your flaws, all those good things that you've done and all those things that you regret. And it goes as far as the most grievable things you've ever experienced, including the death of members that you love or things that you love, the destruction of the things that you hold on to. All those things have been in your existence for a reason, and what has happened in your reality happened for a reason. And you are the person you are from all this experience. And what happens from now into the future will happen because it's predestined. And I know some of you are going to tell me that fate and reality don't coexist, that you determine your future. I get that. I get that argument. But that's only from a three-dimensional, observable reality without understanding the source of all information. And once you understand all this and why you exist and why you're having an experience, then you'll understand that your future is predestined. And that whatever you end up making of your life, although in one sense feels like you have determined it, it hasn't. It is just like every solid object that you come in contact in your three-dimensional world that you live in, it is solid. And that time really does exist. All this to say that your experience in life feels real, and that it feels like you are making the choices that bring you through your journey. And that every once in a while things happen without your control, and that you have to come up with troubleshooting solutions and making decisions and taking action in it. Because you are. They are both at play. Reality and this illusion are both at play. You are feeling like you are a part of it, and that is what makes reality feel real. I pinch you, you get hurt. If you sit and do nothing, nothing in life will really happen for you. You have to participate. You have to do. Here's the trick, you see. Here is the trick in your reality to make you feel as though you are creating a better path for yourself. I want you to understand it's predestined. However, the trick is like this. With all this information of vibrating energies that are around you that are creating all this reality, you are all connected to the consciousness. Now, the consciousness, if you wish to have a different observation of the world, you only need to put yourself in the right vibration. So you have a low or dark vibration of negativity, and you have a bright, beautiful vibration of wonders and greatness, beauty. If you're in one area in your life and you're stuck there, and that's a way you're always thinking, you're always viewing things in a negative way, things are going to become that for your reality. You will experience this over and over and over. However, if you see things differently, if you begin to feel things differently in a more positive way, you will experience things that will become as great and wonderful as the feelings that you are hoping to feel, the things that you are projecting in your mind. Things come into reality this way. You're driving your path. So which energy are you going to feed? Are you going to feed the negative energy, or are you going to feed the positive energy? That doesn't mean that things aren't going to come and challenge you. We need contrast, remember? So when things are wonderful, we still have to have contrast. Things are going to challenge you. Things are going to bring you down. And you just let it. But then don't find yourself in this area where it just drags you down to an abominable pit of gloom and doom for the rest of your life. You can follow this path to greatness. And that I leave with you to think. Life is beautiful. You are beautiful. Until next time, I wish you well.